Most people think toxic people appear randomly in their lives, like bad luck, like coincidence. But psychology tells a very different story. Toxic people don't choose everyone. They are drawn to very specific signals, and most of the time, people who attract toxic individuals are doing it without realizing it. In this video, you're going to discover the hidden mistake that quietly invites toxic people into your life again and again. This isn't about being too kind, and it's not about being weak. It's about a behavioral pattern that toxic personalities can sense immediately. Once you understand this mistake, you'll start seeing your relationships very differently. And more importantly, you'll learn how to stop sending the signal that makes toxic people feel comfortable choosing you. Before we begin, real quick. If you value psychology that actually improves your life, subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Now, let's begin. The hidden mistake that attracts toxic people is not what most people expect. It's not empathy. It's not generosity. It's not being available. The real mistake is over-explaining yourself, over-explaining your decisions, over-explaining your feelings, over-explaining your boundaries. On the surface, this looks harmless, even polite. But psychologically, it sends a very specific signal. It signals uncertainty. Toxic people are constantly scanning for this, not consciously, instinctively. They are drawn to people who feel the need to justify themselves, because justification implies doubt. When you explain more than necessary, you communicate that you're seeking approval. And approval seeking is one of the strongest magnets for toxic behavior. Healthy people don't need you to explain yourself repeatedly. They respect clarity. Toxic people do the opposite. They test, they push, they question. And every time you respond with more explanation, they learn something important about you. They learn that pressure works. From a psychological perspective, toxic personalities operate through boundary testing. They don't start with abuse. They start with discomfort, small intrusions, subtle questions, emotional pressure disguised as curiosity. When you respond by over-explaining, you reward the test. You teach them that your boundaries are flexible under pressure. This is why toxic people often say things like, "I just want to understand," or "I'm only asking because I care." They're not looking for clarity, they're looking for leverage. Another part of this mistake is responding too quickly. Immediate reactions signal emotional accessibility. When someone challenges you and you rush to explain, your nervous system is doing the talking. Strong boundaries are calm, weak boundaries are reactive. Toxic people prefer reactive people, because reactivity gives them control over timing, and whoever controls timing controls the interaction. This is why toxic dynamics feel exhausting. You're always responding, always clarifying, always fixing misunderstandings that shouldn't exist in the first place. But here's the truth most people never hear. You don't owe everyone an explanation, especially not people who repeatedly misunderstand you. Over-explaining doesn't create understanding. It creates entitlement. It tells the other person that they are allowed to question your choices, that your boundaries are open for debate. This is the moment toxic people lean in. They sense hesitation. They sense emotional openness without structure, and they move closer. Now here's the shift that changes everything. Stop explaining. Start stating. Instead of saying, "I'm doing this because," say, "This is what I'm doing." Instead of defending your feelings, acknowledge them silently. Instead of rushing to justify your boundaries, hold them. Silence is not weakness, it's containment. Psychologically, silence communicates certainty. When you stop explaining, toxic people feel uncomfortable because discomfort removes their leverage. They rely on emotional engagement, on reactions, on overaccess. When that disappears, they lose interest. This is why many people notice something surprising. The moment they stop over-explaining, toxic people either back off or become more aggressive. Both reactions are information. Backing off means they lost access. Escalation means they're losing control. Either way, the dynamic shifts. Another layer of this mistake is oversharing emotional context. Toxic people weaponize vulnerability before they respect it. Sharing too much too soon creates imbalance. Healthy relationships build depth over time. Toxic ones rush intimacy. They want your story, your pain, your insecurities, because information is power. You don't need to hide, but you do need pacing. Boundaries aren't walls, they're filters. And filters are what keep toxic people out. When you stop explaining yourself, you force others to meet you at your level. Some people will, some won't, and that's the point. The goal isn't to be liked by everyone. It's to be respected by the right people. Respect doesn't come from clarity alone. It comes from when you trust your own decisions, you stop asking others to validate them. And when validation disappears, toxic people lose their entry point. This is why the strongest people are often the calmest. They don't argue their worth. They don't defend their boundaries. They don't negotiate their identity. They move slowly. They respond selectively. And that quiet certainty repels toxicity naturally. So if you keep attracting toxic people, don't ask what's wrong with me. Ask this instead. Where am I explaining myself when clarity would be enough? Because the moment you stop making yourself emotionally available to pressure, toxic people stop choosing you. Not because you changed who you are, but because you stopped sending the signal that made them feel welcome. If this video helped you see your relationships differently, subscribe for more psychology-based content like this. And ask yourself one simple question today. Where can I stop explaining and start standing still? That's where your peace begins.